I'm on my third hour of the
Hey,
Scientology
Kristen,
show.
Kristen, we're on. Hi, and welcome to our last official Sunday of all the consecutive Sundays of Meditation for Global Healing. Brought to you by Vanessa M, Meyer LLC. And friends, my girls are on. Oh, Nane's there too. Yay!
I sign on
Full disclosure, I'm exceedingly tired today, or tonight, or whatever the deal is. So I'm actually having a hard time constructing sentences. So let's see if my grand plan for this last hurrah, it might sound like a bunch of dribble. I hope not, as everybody's yawning on Zoom. That's helpful. Thank you. Don't do it. I need you to be like, hey.
I can though.
Yeah, I just need you to cheer me on and let's figure this out. So I have like an idea of how I wanted to address something. Well, there were a few things I was treating today, and when I got into a deep conversation with one of my clients, as that usually happens, and she's like, yeah, you should really talk about this on meditation tonight. And the only reason I'm not going to do that is because I don't want to end with a heavy subject. I really want tonight, week 52 officially, like I said, we passed our year mark, but because like missing whatever it was, 3 or 5 weeks, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? I should say skipping. So we're behind. So now we're on week 52, and that feels like a full circle for me, and that's what I'm complete with. So first we're going to give me a little pat on the back, because in terms of completing something, I would definitely say that this is the first time that I've devoted myself to something and then been aware that I was kind of completing it. Like I was feeling the feeling of, all right, this part of it needs to end and I'm ready for something else, and honoring that pretty quickly. Usually if I'm devoted to a spiritual service as a facilitator, I really, really can just keep going and going and going, even if it doesn't serve me. So this is a really, really big deal that I've addressed it. I understand the feeling that I feel complete with it in this sense of it, and that it's time to end it and to change it onto something else. So hurrah, huzzah for me and the awareness to do something like that. So while it may feel like, hey, wait, why are we ending this? It, for me, it's a big deal. We've changed a lot in the last year. Things have changed drastically. I'm not cleaning off my groceries anymore with Lysol wipes. So I think that says something. Even though I feel gross not doing it, but that's just psychological. So here we are. At week 52, I wanted to end on a lighter note. And by lighter, I mean I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things that hopefully they'll intertwine, even though my brain is tired. Like really tired. My daughter goes, oh, you look beautiful. And you have lots like deep bags under your eyes. I'm like, thanks, honey. That's kind and very aware. I appreciate it. So I want to talk about our constructs in our minds about certain things. The easiest way, like the easiest one that we're going to talk about is beauty. I'm saying easy because there's so many deeper ones that we can discuss, but I want to talk about beauty because when we hear the word beautiful, I want to know what you think and what you feel. So the first thing that comes to mind when I say beauty, say something. What do you got? Faster than that, come on. Beauty. What does beautiful mean? Come on, the free association here. You could do it. You could do it. What? Pretty?
Pretty.
Sure, pretty.
Pleasing to the eye and the soul.
Pleasing to the eye, to the soul. That's a deeper one. Jeannie gave lips. So, I'll ask you some questions with it. Smile. Oh, yes, a pretty, beautiful smile. I love that, Katie. Thanks for joining. So, beauty, I'm going to go through a lot of quotes tonight because it kind of just brings up so many things, especially if you look up beauty in the sense of how we see it today versus how it was seen a couple hundred years ago. A lot of poetry is always written about beauty. right? And the way they describe beauty in poetry is quite different from how we, kind of market it today and things like that. So beauty is a construct. It is a mind thing, and we are going to simplify it because it's very, very important to me that you understand more deeply what beauty is. And you already know this, but we're going to bring it kind of full circle. So I'm going to go to our old friend Wikipedia, just because it's got a bunch of stuff on there that everybody put together. And in my mind, this is actually the most complete way of describing beauty because it has so many people putting their input on Wikipedia. And I might skim it. It's kind of far. It's kind of long, so maybe I'll skim it. But beauty is commonly described as a feature of objects that make these objects pleasurable to perceive. Such objects include landscapes, sunsets, humans, and works of art. Beauty, together with art and taste, is the main subject of aesthetics, one of the major branches of philosophy. So take that in. Did you know that it's actually part of philosophy, aesthetics, beauty? As a positive aesthetic value, it is contrasted with ugliness as its negative counterpart. It is often listed as one of the three fundamental concepts of human understanding besides truth and goodness. One difficulty for understanding beauty is due to the fact that it's both objective and subjective aspects. It is seen as a property of things, hey, Bill, but also as depending on the emotional response of observers. So, just to break that down. So we have objective and subjective, right? Because there are things that actually are categorized as beautiful because of their symmetry, because of certain characteristics that they hold, and then also upon our emotional response, our subjective point of view of it. So can you imagine that? We base value of beauty as our emotional response. Because of its subjective side, beauty is said to be in the eye of the beholder. It has been argued that the ability on the side of the subject needed to perceive and judge beauty, sometimes referred to as sense of taste. This can be trained and that the verdicts of experts coincide in the long run. This would suggest that the standards of validity of judgments of beauty are intersubjective, i.e. dependent on a group of judges, rather than fully subjective or fully objective. So it's our collective, again, right, how we all experience it. So, conceptions of beauty aim to capture what is essential to all beautiful things. Classical conceptions define beauty in terms of the relation between the beautiful object as a whole and its parts. The parts should stand in the right proportion to each other and thus compose an integrated, harmonious whole. So, think about that. When we look at a face, they actually do breakdowns of face, and the more symmetrical a face, the more pleasing it is to the eye. Pretty crazy, right? If you look throughout history, the concepts of what beauty is in a person or in a culture varies greatly, right? Binding of feet, I don't consider beautiful, but to them, they do. Collars on the necks, the extending of the spine, all these things, they have value and they all have a cultural richness to it, but I don't think it's beautiful. I think it's dangerous. And that's my point of view, my opinion. However, when we think of a landscape, the beauty is different, right? Do we necessarily think that everything has to be symmetrical? What do you think? When you look at a horizon, when you look at even the landscape of a city, does it have to be symmetrical to be beautiful? No, right? There's a great movie with Kate Winslet in it, one of my favorites. Shout out, Kate. Called A Little Chaos. You can get it on Netflix right now still. And I love that movie because she challenges many things, but she's a female gardener for royalty at that. She gets into royalty, which is great. But she's different than the rest. They all had done symmetry, and she brings in a little chaos. And they show what a glorious process it is watching her to create this something different, something unique about it. And there's backstories in the movie which I just adore. But, so I want to challenge this a bit because when you think about the word beauty, it can get downplayed or it can get misconstrued on the value of it. And how many times do we sit and think and reflect on beauty? Maybe just not enough. So if it's a landscape and you're at the beach, you might be more connected to it. Maybe you're taking that time to, I'm just going to mute you, Kristen, to really sit and look at the landscape, look at the horizon, look at the sun rising or the sun setting. If it's your lover, are you taking the same time? If it's yourself, are you taking the same time? If it's your child, do you see what I'm saying here? There's so many different varieties of beauty. If it's food, are you really pausing for those moments? If it's God, are you taking the time to understand and connect? So when we talk about living in gratitude, it's really interesting because, remember, I've said this before, how it can start to feel like a chore. I have to live in gratitude, so I have to feel the gratitude. I have to do this thing. And if you don't feel it, you start to feel like a failure because I'm just not living in gratitude. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong. But it's the pause and to remember what beauty actually is. You can find anything beautiful. Yesterday, we went to a beautiful memorial for one of my best friends' fathers, and it was beautiful, and it was painful and beautiful at the same time. That's a wild one, right? My husband and I sat together just experiencing how powerful it was. And that was really because they were talking about their father in terms of how he's still with them through memory, and also how he's with God and how beautiful that is. So the pain that we're experiencing is from this deep remembrance and this deep feeling of love. And they started discussing about how their dad always measured how much somebody was loved by their funeral procession. How many cars are there? How many cars, right? And showing that that's what really mattered. How much love were they shown? How much love did they acquire and deserve? Did they get what they deserved? So beauty, right? Let's just keep going back and forth. What you do, the way you think, makes you beautiful. That's Scott Westerfield. Dwell on beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. Marcus Aurelius. Youth is happy because it has the capacity to see beauty. Anyone who keeps the ability to see beauty never grows old. You ever watch a child and they marvel at the smallest things, right? They're looking on the ground. They're looking at the ants, where the ants are going. They think that's beautiful. They think it's awesome. Awesome comes from in awe, right? So they're the same thing in so many ways. They're curious about all those things. I remember last year when we were doing curiosity as children, I don't know if you remember, and I showed a picture of a child with like a magnifying glass. He was looking for those deeper parts that were so simple to find. And yet so many times we're so removed, looking at the macrocosm instead of the microcosms, caught up in our cellular stuff or whatever, instead of just watching a leaf blow. Let's see. I like this one from Anne Frank because we know what hell she went through. And she says, I don't think of all the misery, but the beauty that still remains. So, you know her story, you know what she went through, and that's her quote. Should you shield the canyons from the windstorms, you would never see the true beauty of their carvings. When we protect something so that nothing gets harmed, right? Or we take the butterfly out of the chrysalis, what happens? The butterfly doesn't survive, right? The butterfly doesn't grow. It needed that time to be in there to create its beauty, to encourage the change of its energy and of its body. So when we stop things, stop processes from happening, we're forgetting that the beauty happens through the journey. And the journey is definitely not all easy. Raise your hand if you have an easy journey. Please let me know. I'd love to hear about somebody who goes, oh my God, my life's been so easy. It's been so smooth. I have had no trauma, and all of my friends are in great health, and I have all the money that I need. I want to hear about that. That'd be great. But there's also this point of view, right? Where we can choose to remember that, yes, this journey is a journey. And there are so many parts that are tough. Last week we came from full Mercury in retrograde, and then on Tuesday Mercury went direct, so we had no excuses to blame Mercury, poor Mercury. But simultaneously, we had a full moon. So Wednesday, I don't know if you noticed, but boy, was that day crazy. I literally got great news, bad news, great news, bad news, great news, bad news, all day long. Excuse me. So when those things happen like that, part of me is just, I actually called my sister to warn her because it was so, so up and down. But that's also the time to pause. Obviously, all this information was being balanced and received. I don't have external control of forces like that, but what I can do is try to help ground the energy for others. There was a situation a couple of weeks ago with one of my colleagues' clients. I couldn't be in there with them to physically help, so I stood by the door and I sent Reiki and healing to them on the inside. That was my way of trying to balance the energy and help the situation. The beauty of that was the knowing that it was something that was within my field that I could do. It was something that I could call upon, that I had God's energy easily flowing through me because of my practice, and that I could call on that type of beauty. You ever meet somebody who you think is gorgeous? You're like, this person is beautiful. Or a celebrity, like, this person is drop dead beautiful, gorgeous, whatever. And then you find out more about them or more of their actions. And you're like, huh, you're really not attractive at all. I don't find you attractive at all. Big turnoff. Or vice versa, right? You see somebody who is not logically, or whatever you want to call it, on the more beautiful side. And then as they speak to you, they're eloquent, they're sweet, they're so kind, they're caring. They're all these qualities that we deem as important. And suddenly you can feel their aura. You can feel the beauty that really is radiating from them. And this is why beauty is part of a devotion. This is where we come full circle. Happiness makes you pretty. Happy people are beautiful. Loving, kind people are beautiful. They are a mirror and they reflect happiness. We have a nice Ralph Waldo Emerson one. Though we travel the world over to the beautiful, to find the beautiful, we must carry it with us or we find it not. If you do not understand what beauty is, if you can't conceive it or perceive it or bear witness to it, when it shows itself to you, how will you know it? Beauty comes from the divine. When we speak of spirit, God, whatever words we use, whatever you're comfortable with, when you speak to that force, how will you know that it's God if you have not picked up the spiritual phone, if you have not called upon for aid and assistance, if you have not thanked them, if you have not looked for signs to receive signs, if you have not done this devotion of spirit, how will you know? You will not know beauty because you will be too blind, too confused, too overwhelmed. So in the culmination of 52 weeks, as we come into this closing part of this way, I want you to hear the message that you're not beautiful because you're symmetrical. You're not beautiful because somebody else has deemed you beautiful, although it feels good, right? You're beautiful because you are of God's properties. God has created you in such a manner that is so profoundly intricate and amazing. Look at your body. Are you an understanding how your fingers move? Are you an understanding of how your blood pumps? Are you bearing witness to what you experience when you're feeling good, to not good, to in between? Becoming a witness to your being is one of the most profound things you can do in your practice. So as we meditate and train our bodies and our minds to bear witness, to see how everything is feeling as I take this deep breath, as I imagine a tree. Oh, look what happened. My shoulder relaxed. As I thought of an old friend, oh, my shoulder tightened. Like, when we do these things, there is a beautiful devotion that's occurring in you, and you don't even know it. You're not even aware that you're actually constructing and creating more beauty. Every time you do this, your cells begin to vibrate differently. They change, they turn over, they create healing. There is a powerful and just amazingness to what we are doing. And when we continue to choose this type of devotion, it becomes bigger than our aura. Our aura basically contacts somebody else's aura. They start talking to each other. There is a connection that you can't do even by holding hands. It's deeper, it's bigger, and it's lighter. When you call to a friend and they actually sit there with you and they listen, deep listening, they don't interrupt, they listen. What happens? Your entire soul can release yourself. You can be yourself, and you can say the words that are bothering you. You can release things that have been sitting there or just happened. You can process. When you are learning to do that more and more as a human being in this experience, you are becoming more on the side of the divine. So these parts that are inside that are waiting for attention are being called to every time you meditate. Every time you do an act of kindness and then feel it. So you can be kind throughout your entire day, but if you haven't stopped to bear witness to your actions, you're losing part of it. The same thing goes with any other action. So understand that it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. Understand that it's not just what you say, right? It's how you say it. And when reaction starts to take over, we're missing the beauty. We're losing some of the journey's importance. So close your eyes for a moment. We're not even getting into the deep meditation yet. I just want you to feel some of these words. Albert Einstein. Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. Our task must be to free ourselves. And in this day and age, the freedom for ourselves is not solely of the body, it's also of the constructs of mind. So as we sit and speak to each other and say words without thought, we call somebody beautiful without even thinking, why are they beautiful to me right now? If we stop questioning the action of anybody, of government, healthcare, all the like, we are forgetting to contact and reflect, to connect and be direct. And our bodies are the ones listening. So take that in for a moment. If I call you beautiful, I hope it feels good. If I call you kind, I hope it feels better. If I say, wow, God is listening, I hope that feels phenomenal. Because they are listening. And I say they because I really see it as a whole collective. They're listening and they're waiting and they're so excited every time you're doing you. Every time you're connecting to how you truly are, they're having a party. They're making plans for bigger and better things. They're raising the intention and the awareness. And they have no care for the divisiveness of today's constructs. In fact, all they really want you to do is love your neighbor. Really love your neighbor without badgering them about the wrong words that they're saying, without saying, oh, I need to correct that, without saying you're educating somebody or the toxic positivity that somebody's pulling on you. All they want you to do is say, you know, I love you. And I think if you wait a moment and feel this breath, you're going to understand that. Everything you're doing is getting better and better. The more you do it and the more you connect to this beauty that's inside of you, the beauty comes outside of you, and all of us are together. So with that, I want you to ask Spirit to reveal to you how God sees you. So it's more than looking in the mirror and finding something to love. When you close your eyes before we do the meditation, when we do the meditation, we'll go over this too, but when you close your eyes, I want you to put your hand right on your heart. And we'll do this invocation a couple of times tonight so we really get it in there. So I'll say Spirit, you can say God, you can say whatever you want. Please, Spirit, reveal to me how you see me. Please, God, reveal to me how you see me. And then let your mind just clear itself. So right now you're not going to get your answer probably, but this is the question that we're asking tonight. And we're doing it together because I want you to understand a little bit more of how we're connected. Your cosm, your world, your real world, when we say everything you need to know is what? Inside of you, right? We say everything you need to know is inside of you. Why is it inside of you? It's inside of you because God has placed literally this cosm inside of your being. And you are in human form holding the fort down, restraining it, keeping it intact. And if you deepen right into that seed, you can feel it, you can contact it. And we've done it over the weeks. We've done it in bits and pieces, and some of you have really soared. You've told me some stories. You've seen amazing things that literally the imagination couldn't just come up with like that. You've been there. And the more you do it, you're going to go deeper and deeper. So that little cosmo, we're calling it a cosmo, little, not really. It's huge. It's bigger than you can imagine. That's contacting the bigger cosmos. Every time we do this, the bigger cosmos. And as we evolve, because we are evolving every day, your vibration is getting ready and prepared to be a better version, a lighter version, a more connected version of this beautiful being. And that is the evolution of divine. You are actually becoming more divine. Did you get that? I hope you got that. Every day, every time you do this, every time you acknowledge a judgment and still let it pass, every time you say, yeah, I understand that feels weird. Oh, that's my human side. I'm going to go to the divine side and see if I can do better than that. Every time you do that, that's the divine. You're thinking twice about it. Every time you choose not to curse somebody out, Lord knows we want to. Every time you choose to find a different way to be kind, a different way to be helpful, when you choose to better your words without being yelled at first, you just choose to do it. That's your morality. Just flying, because you don't need the construct of morality anymore. It's not even necessary because you understand that the divine is what makes you want to be better. Does that make sense? The divine makes you want to be better. It's not because society says, you know, you need to be better. You know, you're saying the wrong words. You're doing the wrong thing. I don't like the way that looks. You shouldn't eat that. You should do this. That's not what makes you really want to do it. It's this feeling deep inside. Why are you here right now? Why are you listening? That's the divine calling you. That's part of your soul's path. It's way bigger than anything that another human being can force you into. So you're here by choice. That was the gift from God. He said, I will give them freedom of choice. You can choose not to do this. You can choose not to do the work. You can stay and be okay in the realms of life, or you can be greater. you can feel greater. You can experience love and beauty in such a big way that, like I said, your imagination, that's a human form. This is divine. So as we build up this vibration in your body, I bet as I'm talking, you can feel something happening in your belly, something moving inside of your soul. We're going to go on that. So, my loves, you're going to sit up for tonight. Hi, Corrine. Hi, Mary. For tonight's meditation, I want you to be awake. So I want you to sit up in a chair, and I'd like you to dim the lights, but maybe not put them all the way out. If you have a candle, that'd be great. If you have soft music, that's fine. I just want you to really be aware and present for this one. In yoga, there's a devotion called Bhakti Yoga, and that's devotion with song, you know. So when we do kirtan, you may have heard of kirtan. They repeat Lord's names over and over again in a song fashion. I love it. It's always called to me. And when I was confused about it, because I was like, well, they're not saying my one God, I started thinking of it as like the parts, the personality, characteristics of God. And then it felt completely fine to me. But what I love so much about Bhakti Yoga is you can feel the love. You can feel it. We've talked about how music can create these changes for us. It can be meditation-wise for us. And music like that, for me, really makes me feel the vibration shift. So tonight we're going to do a little bit of sound with it. Oh, Jeannie, you're cheating. You're lying down. I want you to sit up. So you're going to start off with right hand over your heart, left hand on your belly, right above the navel. And make sure your shoulders are nice and relaxed. So squeeze them up towards the ears. You can tighten your face too. And then as you release them back and down, drop the chin down to your chest. And we'll do that again. Squeeze them up to your ears. That feels really good. Squeeze them back, drop the chin down. One more time. And then release the jaw, let the tongue hang low. And we'll start with tapping right over the heart, actually. You can keep your eyes closed, just focusing on the fingertips. And then introduce some really big sighs to this. And then bring it right to the sternum on the breastbone. And introduce some sound. One more time. Good. And then stop the motion and just give it a nice palm rub over the chest. So in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, we're really, really close to the central vessel area. And that's where it holds all your emotions really, really deep. And if you press that point, you can get tenderness and experience just a big opening. We're right above it, and I like to do that because it's an introduction to the channel in a sense. Just opening up the emotional center. And then we're going to go down into it. So you're going to take your index finger, just trail between the clavicle, and then you'll reach right at the on the center of the nipple line. And you're going to feel a little divot there. And it will feel pretty tender. So right on the sternum. Go down, Jeannie. in the center. Yeah. So when you get that divot, even sitting up, it's a little tender. So we're going to be really nice to that area. You don't want to be like killing it, just a little bit of an opening. And the gift here is not just that the emotions start to flow, it's actually that you can have a deeper breath. So when we're feeling a culmination of stress, it will really feel like we can't physically take a deep breath, and the breath will become more shallow. And this is a great part to just let that release. You can start to inhale and exhale green for the heart chakra. Anahata. It's a really great word actually to meditate with. So, anahata. Anahata. Good. And when that feels a little softer, you can release that. Just both hands on the upper chest, expanding across the chest, and then release the shoulders forward a little bit actually. So then open and release forward. Maybe you want to take a nice big yawn. Good. And then we'll get the fingertips up, and tonight we'll bring it up over the head. And if you can grab into prayer position right above. Good. And you can just wiggle side to side nice and slow, and just want to make sure you're taking nice deep breaths as you do it. So find a very gentle movement in the body. Tonight we're really awakening all of the senses. And then you'll really, really gently float the arms back down to your side as slow as possible. Good, and then give a nice big hug to yourself. You ever hug your shoulders? They feel so good, and you realize like, oh, that's my body. Look at that, that's so nice. And you can absolutely drop the chin down into the arms like a cradle. And every time you breathe, you'll notice that the back of the upper body is nice and stretched. And then open it nice and wide, spread your wings. And then other arm on top. Nice big hug. Go ahead and open. And then you can release the palms face up onto your lap. So in this 52 weeks, we've been so many places for meditation. We've used nature in so many different forms. And as we take our deep breaths here, we're going to allow our guides to start guiding us. So I want to take a trip to a higher realm. And the way we're going to do that is you're going to pick the way you're going to travel. So you can travel through a tree. You can travel up on stairs, a ladder. You can climb a mountain. However you want. There is no rules to this. All you need to know is that you're going higher up than the ground, and then I'll lead the way. So it might take you a few breaths to really figure out what feels comfortable to you. And as you do that, I just want to make sure that you remember that you're contacting Gaia first. So Gaia is our earth and all of its energy. And she has a fantastic way of transmuting and changing energy, right? So once you pick your route of travel, she's going to help you with it. So anything that seems to be blocking the way, if it seems hard to get into, you're going to ask her for some help. And you'll see pretty immediately, she'll send some lights up, kind of like an aurora borealis feeling, and she'll give you the energy to go through with it. And don't forget, your travel can change over the breaths, okay? Sometimes it's harder for people when I don't give them full direction, but I want you to just focus on the breath, talking to Gaia, and see what happens. And all I'm going to do for a couple minutes is make some noise. Next few exhales, release the sound of Om into your body, allowing the vibration to fully circulate through all of your cells. Om. Releasing the sound of Om. It's part of creation, the sound of creation. And as we sing, chant, hum, all of those vibrations, they raise and they bring us back to that internal cosmos. And as we're traveling up higher and higher, you could still be traveling. There's no stopping you. When you come to your arrival, how are you going to know? You're just going to know. It's just going to feel like a good spot. And you'll take this deep breath in again and release that sound of Om again, calling to each other, calling to each other's cells as we chant and hum. And this beauty of sound. Look how just taking a nice hum, a release of Om, forces some breath control, and it slows everything down. So if you're lucky, you've arrived in this place, this grand place. And I don't want to give you too much construct on what I think it looks like for you. So instead, I'm going to guide you into your senses. When you've arrived, like I said, you're just going to know. However you got there, you're going to now be able to walk or fly around, maybe even swim, and explore your surroundings. It's definitely different than Earth, because the feeling of it is more expansive. So where I know that wherever you are, even though I don't know what it looks like, I know the feeling is different. And that's what you're going to go by. You're going to expand upon this wider feeling, this feeling of losing the concept of ground, losing the concept of objects. Everything is different here, and I want you to really honor that. So you'll start by noticing the way you're traveling here. Does your body have a body? Are you pure energy? Are you just seeing lights? Or maybe you're watching your body. Just see what's happening. And as you go around, see if you can hear anything, like really hear it. And a lot of times when we're in a place like this, you can experience hearing in a different way. So you'll be able to still hear your surroundings. You can still hear my voice. You can still hear what's happening in the room. But it feels like you're in a thickness, in a different space, and your hearing will adjust. So you'll be able to feel so many things, so much more at once. So notice how your hearing has altered. And what I love about this is I can literally feel everyone's experiences, like a collaboration of it, and it's amazing. Beautiful. The next thing I want you to do is see if there's anybody around. You might be noticing other beings, other forms, other presences. If you interact with them, see if your voice is different. Are you actually using words still? Have things changed? Or can you just know what they're feeling or thinking? And while you're having an interchange, see if there's a question that you'd like to be addressed. People are always wondering how psychics get their answers. It's just from this type of connection and this willingness to listen. So here you are. You can ask anything. And now bear witness, as you ask your questions or have these interchanges, have you noticed if your surroundings are changing? Are they staying the same? Are things slightly different? And here's a real fun one. what is your sense of time here? Because mine is really different. To me, it feels like I'm inside of a deep breath. And now a challenge for yourself. See if you can still feel your human form and still stay present into this upper cosmos. What might happen is you might feel like your human form is kind of falling away a little bit as you contact both planes. To me, this is the experience I have when I become a direct channel. It feels like the energies push Vanessa aside gently and then speak through me. So right now I can feel myself in two very different planes. I am aware that I have feet and hands and a back, but my soul is really up somewhere much different, much, much different, and I can feel the expansiveness completely around me. In this place for me, it's not even like it's slow. It's like it's inside of a breath. So see if you can also find another being who wants to travel with you. Ask them to show you something special. Notice if your body temperature has changed. Notice if you're thirsty. Or if you're simply in the one plane. You'll travel with this being to a very special place. If they've showed you something else, that's wonderful, but they're going to bring you somewhere different. And in the center of this place, you're going to see a sacred object. I won't tell you what it is. I want you to look at it first from far away and just feel its energy. And next you'll ask permission to approach it. The being will give you information on the purpose of this object. I'd like you to listen for the answer. Remember, even if the answer seems outlandish, I want you to remember it. What is the purpose of this sacred object? next, you're going to ask this being for a healing. Again, remembering this is a different place. Healing might look or feel different, but it will all be safe. So as you ask for healing, see where they bring you. Allow, allow, allow. Giving permission for this healing to happen. Giving permission for the soul to fully experience all beautiful parts. Make sure you maintain your long breaths while you're being worked on. You might be feeling pressure in parts of your body. It's completely normal. And energies like this work really fast in our time. So if it's intense for a few breaths, just keep taking deep breaths, remembering that you're completely safe and you're really being honored and healed. This is an honor for this type of work to be done. Allow yourself to receive the abundance. So this work will be done over the next few breaths. At this point, you may have an impression or the knowledge of a name or two in this area. Again, remembering it doesn't have to make sense. You're just a knowing to it. You're going to thank them without words, but with an energy exchange. So your healthier being now is able to emit high frequency vibration to have an interchange here. Notice I keep saying interchange. That's what they're telling me it is. And that interchange is important for them. So they're getting something back as well. Amazing. Somebody else is now going to guide you back towards your way of travel. And maybe the travel has changed. But in order for you to safely and easily come back here, you do have to do the travel. So take a few deep breaths. Remember that this cosmos is existing in you. So as you travel back down, you're traveling back into your physical form. And allow the couple minutes that it takes to really fully happen. Don't just imagine that you're back. You need to do the travel. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then allowing your body to release the Om again, nice and soft, creating a soft landing. Allowing for the soul to come fully back and present. And this Om will get longer and longer, and you may start to feel like the weight of your body, becoming aware of that again. And perhaps with a more sense of peace and lightness than before. But it will take a few minutes for you to become fully grounded and present. And then as you do about 3 more Oms, I want you to send your roots down back into the earth, literally visualizing the roots of the tree that's also inside of you, going down into the earth, but this time nice and steady and strong. And then very soon you'll be able to comfortably adjust your body or open your eyes, but there's no rush. Just honoring this journey. Wow. If you're still with me, I can barely open my eyes. I'll take a couple of minutes finishing that return fully. Sometimes when you get there, when you really get deep, you don't want to come back. It's okay. If it's your first time doing a real travel like that, it could feel very different. You might not see things, but you might feel some things. If you were lucky enough to experience the healing, like I said, you might have some residual pressure, particularly around the head a lot. They do a lot of head work. And the head work is really to help us lighten our mental load so that we can fully connect. So the work being done, don't forget, is all through the divine. And it will not hurt you ever. It's only of light and love. It's safe. And you can travel like this anytime. But I do want you to practice the grounding aspect, because otherwise you'll have a hard time focusing in your it's not your normal life, your regular life, because you're going to feel so high. So this type of healing work, when I do distant healings, it's a lot of work like this where I can sense where your spirit is going, what's happening, and then I can see the light beings doing the work with me usually, which is lovely. So, as always, take note of how you're feeling, of what you're feeling. Tonight, what do I always say? Take your Epsom salt bath. If you're going to have a snack before bedtime, there is inherent grounding in a snack. I would say something more on like the savory or salty side. It doesn't take much. Just like in Harry Potter, dark chocolate really works for grounding, and I do mean dark, like 70% and above. And if you are going to have a snack, eat it mindfully. Other than that, plain water is great just to help purify. But if you'd like to stay and share, since this is our 52nd week, please do so. Facebookers, start typing now so I see it. What did you experience? Even if you feel like you had a hard time, I'm sure you felt something. So let me know what you felt. Does anybody want to share over here?
had the head work.
Yeah.
I felt that immediately.
I still have it.
And my body was vibrating the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had that happen. That was really crazy. It was, from the word go, my whole body was vibrating. You know, like when a chihuahua vibrates for no reason?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like.
So also be mindful that, it's like every time we do a meditation, I'm sending healing, obviously, but tonight was very specific. So you got Reiki and everything as a group, which is normally I say not an easy task, but that's not true necessarily. It's more of a, really what this is about is this collective love, and I'm so happy that I'm able to really feel it, and I can channel it now for you all. So I feel really, like, I love that. And I love that you felt the vibration specifically. And I bet you did your ohms, right? Yeah. Good. Good. So remember with the vocal work, it doesn't take a lot. So even if you're not a singer, just humming is a great introduction. And I will actually do a workshop on this. It's a great introduction to divine channeling, and also to raise your internal vibration, which is what we're ultimately doing. It opens everything up so fast, and then you can feel it going down into the body, and it's so good. So that's great. Did you see any colors, Kristen?
Oh my gosh, so many.
Right?
When you said you'll see the Aurora Borealis, I'm like, how's that going to be different than any other time for me? Because that's every time.
Right, but it was different this time, right?
It was like they put it on steroids.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, but yeah.
Like, this is like what, I guess this is what tripping must be like, because I just wouldn't have any experience with that. But.
So as I was doing it, I was literally thinking, I'm like, and this is why I don't do drugs, because I can feel this without drugs.
Right.
So what's the point? I mean, I don't think it can get better than this. Anybody else want to share? My nay head over there.
Nay head?
Nay head.
No, I mean, yeah, almost like a lot of vibration. Colors, green, blue, and actually like a gray. Not gray, no, beige.
That's cool. That's different. Did you guys see any beings?
Mine was a dog. Not really a foreign being.
A dog?
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be a foreign being.
I had souls around me, not beings per se.
So I'm using the word beings, but that
I had
doesn't
it
mean
was like souls. It was
souls.
I
Sure.
couldn't find a body part that was identifiable, and nobody walked. Everybody was floating or flying.
Just floating. How did you guys travel?
I walked, but yeah, when you're saying floating, my dog floated.
Ah.
Oh, there you go.
Very good. The dog was floating. Perfect. I like it.
I was in a tree, and then I was flying from the tree.
All right. I'll take that. So this is actually going to be an introduction. So I'm going to have a series of things following after this. Obviously not tonight, but that we're going to be working on, since we're not doing this every week. I'm going to put the time and effort into, I'm going to do a journey into, the lower worlds and into the upper world with drumming and chants, which it's very similar to this, but it's going to be a little bit different because I'm not necessarily going to be guiding you. So the more we do the guided imagery stuff, the more you'll see how it opens to everything else. We'll do a whole vocal session too about spiritual toning, vocal toning like that, the way I use it, and an intro to that. So people that have their voice will feel at home. The people that don't have their voice accessible to them yet, it will be great to explore it. So every time I tell you to hum, there's a reason for it. It's not just, I can't hear you anyway, so I don't even get to have the pleasure of it, but it's going to be really good. So there's going to be a bunch of things like that, but tonight specifically, I just wanted to be special because It's our last thing right now. So, my friends, I have loved doing this. It has not always been easy coming from work. I was barely opening my eyes before this, and the stress with the kids and stuff like that. I want to be very clear on why I have done this for a year. When you are asking yourself, who am I? When you are reflecting upon what is my purpose, I want you to remember that who you are and what your purpose is changes all the time, just the way you change. And overall, you'll be the same beautiful soul. However, your purposes will shift over time. And the more we do this deep listening into spirit, the easier it will be to access, and the quicker you can make those shifts. For me, last year, when we were going through quarantine and all that stuff, I actually waited because I had the idea, and then I think it was because people were reaching out to me suddenly, and there was like desperation going on about their emotions, about what they were experiencing, about loved ones not being well, about being separated, this deep feeling of separateness. So in my mind, when I think of the shadow aspect of things, right, I immediately have to go, well, what's the light aspect of, what's the opposite of feeling separate? Connected, right? So that's always been my goal in life, is to connect people into community. Well, how can I do that? How can I do that when we're quarantined? How can I do that? And Spirit gives us this information so easily when we're really listening. So I was told, I don't remember how, if it was dream or if it just like came to me, but exactly how to do it, and that I was going to do it a certain way. And then I allowed the process to change over time. It changed. The first, I think, 4 or 5, we used the same meditation that I had created with my husband, which was really necessary actually to do the same one about 4 or 5 times, because that was literally when nobody could get into the hospital. That was literally when people were dying alone, when our essential workers were different than we thought they were, right? We were relying on outside sources. It was, to say the least, uncomfortable, right? So we needed to do the repetition, because what did I say about having a devotion? There's a higher purpose, right? And that's the beauty of it, when we can realize that that journey is so important. So we went through the journey of, I think it was about 5 times of repetition, until it felt to me like we had completed that part. And as we shifted into the other stuff, then we explored the 7 main chakras, which was a great review for me as well. We did artwork with it, we did the words, and if you didn't do this stuff, guys, don't worry, it's all on Facebook Live, and it's all going to be posted up publicly for YouTube in the next couple of weeks. You can go back and you can listen, and even if you just get little pieces of everything, you're going to see how far we've all come. You're going to see the evolution of our cells, and how it's so easy to come back to the grounding. So how often are you pulled out of yourself, your source? When you think of the list of what you have to do, how are you going to do it? Logically, how's this going to work? It takes literally seconds to come back to God, to your source. And once that happens, you'll see the burden lightens immediately. The worries lessen. You just start to feel so connected. So if you're wondering, why do I feel less worried when I ground myself? Why do I feel less worried when I meditate? It's because the source is lightening your load. And we're sharing it. There's this community happening. So even if you don't know everybody that signs on, believe me, this practice, it's immeasurable. And now at the 52nd week, so many things have shifted, and they will continue to shift And when fear comes up, which it happens on a daily basis, you know, when the fall happens and people start freaking out about health again, whatever it is, I want you to remember you have home. You have a home. Your home is with us. Your home is with connection to divine. And that home cannot be taken away, and it cannot be shook. You are building your foundation on a daily basis. Every time somebody tries to make a crack in it, you are coming to Spirit and you're saying, please continue to fix my foundation. Thank you so much for helping me with my foundation. And you will fulfill your support and your higher purpose daily. It won't take thousands of hours to fulfill your soul purpose because you do it daily. You understand? You're continuously doing it. Every time you connect, your soul's purpose is getting reached, tapped into. Those cosmos that you just traveled to, that's inside of you because God has put you in a nice little pretty package. Amazing, right? So it's the thousandth time that I've said some of the same things, and maybe it's reaching you differently tonight. It's all good. From the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful for the aptitude for devotion, for your audience, for your participation on any level, for your asking, for your listening. I'm so grateful that I had the support of my husband and even my little children trying to understand what I was doing. And on the 52nd night of this practice, all I'm asking is that you continue to tap in and connect. You are ever evolving, ever growing, and ever loved. Beauty is not in the eye of the beholder, but in the heart of your soul. And may you have a seat in that soul, and may you have a community of love and adoration, and may you be a true reflection of God. Namaste. I love you.